However, it was too late. At that point, it was simply too late to then say, but see, I'm also a coach que apuesta por el futuro, que apuesta por los jóvenes, that places a bet, that counts on the younger generation and the Masia players and the 4-3-3 and all that. At that point, it was even though things changed from that point, Kian, and we can get into the game, and I'd love to know your perspective as well, because, Barca came out in the first 10 minutes, okay, it was good. Then it was, the demise and really the falling of this team in physique, in fitness, in competitiveness, in eagerness, in ambition, in willpower, in belief, that just faded away. That just completely faded away. And you're talking about a Bayern that it almost seemed took pity on us and said, you know what, let's not do the 8-2 thing again. Let's just keep it at half gas, because goddamn, even like we feel bad for this team and this club in defense at this point. That's what I felt like. And we're images, Kian, I'll go on a continuous rant. I'll finish off saying this. There were images of the players coming out of the player tunnel at halftime when we were still just losing 1-0. And the looks on the faces, and I'm not even exaggerating, were of players that were shook. It was the classic deer in the headlight look. I mean, it were players that would look dejected, that looked demoralized, that looked traumatized, quite frankly. And a lot of them were. You are talking your Jordi Alba, your Piqué, your Busquets, that have gone through trauma after trauma in Europe, that really need a psychological approach to this. I need a psychiatrist to go into that locker room and talk to these older guards, to these players, to get over. It's like post-traumatic stress disorder. It's like armies coming back from war, man. Like, these are players that are visibly shook up and not mentally ready to compete on the European stage, because they've taken too much of a heavy beating over the past, what have been, 5 years.
Sounds like you need some Jose Mourinho in your life.
I don't know who it is.
You need Jose Mourinho to come in and get rid of the Cruyff philosophy and sign.
Stop.
Sign
Don't take the
Marouane
piss.
Fellaini.
Don't take the piss. Don't take the piss.
Send Fellaini into the box, and Pedri can just cross his head. That's what you need.
No, look, it annoys me a little bit that you take it into a sarcastic route, because the Mourinho approach is not a bad idea, at least from again, a psychological mindset perspective. Obviously, his football philosophy and tactics, no. What we need to do is go back to the greatness of Cruyff and his philosophy and the Pep and the Luis Enrique right now. Bring me Luis Enrique. Bring me Lucho. Lucho will be able to get great things, great production out of this group of players. Because I think he had a mental and tactical approach. Because it hurts me. Like, I love and respect Koeman so much. You, the listeners, know that he still, to this day, is the first and only Barca jersey that I received with a name on the back, and it was Koeman. So the legend will never fade. Koeman, the player, will never, you'll never hear a bad word about me about Koeman. Neither the person nor the player, but the coach has got a lot of, deserves to be heavily questioned, if not put aside, because we need something else at this point. We cannot come out with our coach and our captain saying, es lo que hay, which was sort of the phrase that summed it all up. It is what it is. I don't know if you read that, Kian, but Koeman and Piqué talked about it is what it is. And you know what? It is what it is. Situation, the economical, financial situation, all of the stuff. It is what it is. The players, Messi leaving, Griezmann, it is what it is. The injuries, it is what it is. However, you can still approach this situation in a different way, with a different mindset and a different philosophy. And I think it would be more productive. We need that healing now. We need to do that now. It's more urgent than ever, because we're more and more straying away, and the years go by, and it's just not good.
So let's not forget that this Barca team lost to Bayern 8-2 with Messi and without Koeman.
But who was the coach?
Who was the coach then? Setien? Was it Setien for that one?
Yes, it was Setien. Now
Yeah.
that sort of back. How and I don't want to criticize Setien either, because if anything, I would have liked Setien to maybe have more time. If anything, you can argue the A2 was a better reflection of Cruyff and the 3-0. Why? Because it clearly showed that Barca were more exposed in the back, but the players were not there. It wasn't, and again, we go back to these players being traumatized. Because before the 8-2, it was the 4-0, and before the 4-0, it was the 3-0. Before you know what I mean? I could go on.
Yeah. So so my point where I was going with this is that Koeman is dealt with a team that is not necessarily ideal for him, and this team would have probably got blown away regardless. And the precedent before Koeman is not great anyway. But here's what I will say. I think there is plenty of room for criticism for Koeman, because there are things he did in that game against Bayern that I think were just poor. Now I don't know, like, I'm not saying that any manager who comes in necessarily wouldn't have lost 3-0 and not got blown away. I'm not saying that, but there are things that he did that really made no sense to me. So we'll start from the top. One, so we know that this squad isn't necessarily in his reflection, but some of it is. There was an insistence to sign Luc de Jong for some reason, and we brought him, and you brought him.
You said we.
That was the slip of the century right there. My God.
On the day we're both dressed in white, Kian shows his Blaugrana.
Let's not let that distract us from my overarching point.
Go.
All right, so he brings in Luc de Jong. He wants to sign him. We can talk about the Dutch connection. It's basically nepotism at this point. It's like whoever's Dutch, just bring him in. I don't think Luc de Jong makes sense at all for this team. And when you look at de Jong in this game, he had 23 touches. 15 of them were in Barca's half. He had no presence in the box. He did not help Memphis at all in transition. He did not do anything defensively. If you're just going to play with Luc de Jong and he's not going to play as a striker, why not just play Coutinho instead of not play a striker at all? That's one thing. Can
I just quit? There were no other options other than de Jong, and Coutinho had been out of play.
Fine, then why not? Why not
came in?
Why not bring Yusuf from the beginning? That's another option.
The night before, I said that Yusuf should play on the show on Barca TV.
The other thing was so that was one thing. I think the other option is when you look at Sergio Roberto, who looked completely out of his depth in a game like this, and I don't know if this is true. Maybe you would know better than me that he actually ended the game in tears and he was booed off the field and all this stuff. He had a nightmare.
Indeed. Both him and Jordi Alba.
He's playing as a right wing back. I actually would have considered, if you're going to go with him there were so many times that he finds himself in this position, in an attacking position to help Memphis, and he's not even marked, and he doesn't do anything with it. I was thinking if you had Yusuf there in that position, actually, he would have done more offensive than Sergio Roberto. And let's not pretend Sergio Roberto was there for defensive purposes, because Alphonso Davies just murdered him anyway. So, you know what I mean? Big victory for Canada there.
Like we knew. Yeah. Like we knew. We talked about it.
Yeah, we talked about it. So I'm just like, there were things like that. I also think that Barca, mind you, just context, so you know, from my perspective, I actually missed the first 15 minutes of this game. I heard that Barca were actually okay to start the game, so I missed that.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
I
so
said
forgive me. I don't know much about that. Yeah, but from what I saw, Barca couldn't deal with Bayern's man-to-man press at all. To be fair, I don't know if many teams can when Bayern are clicking that way, but it didn't seem like there was a clear game plan to get out of it. I also thought Barca's press and defense was disjointed. And here's my assessment. Like, there's a lot of people who thought this could have been much uglier than 3-0. I think on the grand scheme of things, 3-0 probably makes sense. The XG was only at 2 or something. But sure,
Bayern did not have... Yeah. Ter Stegen had some big stops, and Araujo had some big interceptions.
Yeah. And they were just, but from whether the scoreline was 5-0 or 1-0, my takeaway from this game remained the same. That Bayern walked in there and almost had zero respect for Barca, and they were like
the opposite. I think they showed respect, and that's why because they played at half gas.
Maybe
they had pity. So, it's called pity, is what it is.
Maybe So I don't know what the word is, but I guess what I felt was, Bayern went in there and were like, we're just so superior to you. What we're going to do is we're just going to kick it around. And if the ball ends up in the back of the net a few times, it does. That's what we do in training. Sometimes we score, sometimes we don't. We're not going to take it too seriously. But anytime we need to, we'll just go kick it into a little bit of gear here just in case. And I just felt like that's what the level of respect was, that we're coming in here. We're not on the same level at all. And we're just going to play our game. And we're just going to, and then when we're done. We're going to go home and we're going to go back to Munich and worry about the big games. That's on. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh.
You had this moment. Enjoy this moment.
No,
I get it.
I mentioned this to my dad, and my dad actually started to feel bad. He was like, "It's not good for Spanish football, man." That's what he said. He shook his head. He was like, that was bad. I was embarrassed for them. That's what his feeling was. Look, if Real Madrid was on the pitch last night or on Tuesday night against Bayern, I'm not saying that it would have been much better. I probably would have been a little bit better of a fight and grit. This is the thing I would say about Real Madrid in that situation. I think it's possible Real Madrid would have lost that game 3-0 as well because our defense is in shambles. What I will say that I think that Real Madrid wouldn't have done, and maybe my read on this is different from yours. If you think your read on this is different, please let me know. I felt like Barca, like in the second half, were just so done. They were like, we just want to get out of here. The fight was gone. I feel like Real Madrid would have at least fought a little bit better. Like I can't see us hanging your head the way you guys did.
Things changed when Gavi and Balde came in. That's when things changed. That's when actually Barca started to. Well, listen, these are and Yusuf. You're talking about players between the ages of 16 and 18. There's only so much impact that they're going to have on a team like Bayern, where, with all respects, I mean, they have their own youngsters. Musiala, excuse me.
He was great.
I'm so happy to have discovered him. This is the first time that I got to see him for a full 90 minutes, and I felt privileged to see such talent.
Really fun player.
Really fun player. So I'm impressed. I'm just very, very impressed at that the Bayern are not just buying their way to German and European dominance, but also still able to produce it, I guess, internally. Although this guy, he is half German, half English. He comes from the Chelsea ranks, the Chelsea youth team. Who Chelsea themselves, in fact, have a very, very good youth system. I mean, their team has made the youth league, I think, finals twice. Once beating Barca, or was it? I mean, I know Barca beat them once. I think they lost the other time. That Barca losing to Chelsea. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, what? So I forgot. I'm getting sidetracked. Fuck. Was that Madrid? Oh, that Madrid would have done better. Look, yeah. So youngsters, the Gavis, the Yusufs, and the Balde. In particular, Balde and Gavi, man. You should have heard the crowd when Gavi got the yellow card, and when he went in for another tackle that was even harder than the yellow card, and he could have easily gotten a red and ejected on his debut in the Champions League for Barca's first team. They celebrated that like as if it were a goal, pretty much. Alejandro Balde's interventions and runs from the moment he came in surpassed anything that Jordi Alba had done that entire game, and was met with such joy, like excitement, bro.
Yeah.
And the same can be said for when Yusuf touched the ball, but to a lesser degree, it was certainly with Gavi Balde, and that's what you want to see. All we wanted to see, and that's the point, was we accepted defeat. We signed, for a draw. We were like, shit, if we can get a draw, that's a good result. That's Barca at home. And we were like, but we would have been complacent enough to say, we'll be happy if we just see this team try to, compete. We know we're inferior. The crowd was awesome, man. Besides the whistles against Sergio Roberto and Jordi Alba, the crowd supported the team. We're trying to have as much fun as possible despite the conditions and the circumstances. By that, just enjoying being back, watching football, watching their team play, being at the Camp Nou, which has seen so many historic nights. So just the sheer step forward into surpassing this pandemic and being back and getting to watch the team, that in and of itself was already rewarding. So all we really wanted was to see the team compete, and that only happened when the youngsters came out. And you say it only lasted so long. My argument is, well, you're talking about three players that, again, age between 16 and 18, that are making their Champions League debuts for Barca against Bayern Munich with the conditions that I outlined earlier when we started this discussion. So I'm not going to, knock their performance. If anything, for me, that was the big standout. That and Musalia. I feel like I'm not pronouncing his last name right. Musiala, right? Yeah, exactly. Depending where you listen to, they pronounce it differently in what country.
Yeah.
Him and Upamecano, I thought he was an excellent. There were two excellent players, and
Upamecano was great. I also would say, like, they may not stand out as much, but to me they did. Kimmich and Goretzka,
of course,
were just fully in control of the midfield, and the way they actually just
showed up
between the lines. You would, but I thought that's another thing that Koeman just didn't adjust for. Like, he let those two have time on the ball, get in between the lines, and there was no answer for them. I think. Yeah, I suppose you bring up like good points about the youth team and stuff, and those 2-3 players who came in, they're not going to be able to change the game, and really Barca by the end still did. We were
down 2-0 at that point.
It was over. It was over, but also it just wasn't like there are 2-0s that are not over, but this is a 2-0 that was over. One of the things that struck me was that I didn't know that Gnabry was in the team. I just thought that before the game, when we were talking about, I remember we were doing the pregame analysis. I actually said, like, Gnabry's missing, so that's one less player, because Sané's kind of been in a funk, and then I saw Gnabry come in, and at that point, was it 1-0 or 2-0? I can't. Let me just double check that. He came in the 69th minute, so he came in when it was 2-0. And when I saw him come in, I was like, oh God, that's like the last thing you need, because it wasn't just Gnabry, but it was also Gnabry who was like, I'm going to try really hard and just try to do shit. And immediately he was doing things. And obviously he set up a chance in the box that Ter Stegen saved. And then there was another chance where, he scored, right? He hit the post and Lewandowski scored from the rebound. Then
Lewandowski scored, off the rebound.
So that was just bad for him to come in. That was a bad thing that happened to you guys, for him to come in.
Well, they're so deep. They're just, my respects, with all the fun that I make of Germans and German related things, nothing but respect. It's the same with Randy. It's like our, who was it that spoke? One of the members of the board was on the radio, national radio yesterday, talking about Madrid and how much respect he had, like how well it is run, the institution, and from a business perspective in particular, and how much he respects Florentino and et cetera, et cetera. I'm just saying that because, again, with all the fun that I make of German things, my respects. Can you tell me? Do you hear them? It's getting choppy. Is that on your end as well?
No, it's good.
I don't want to make sure I'm hitting a cable or anything. Okay.
No, it's good. It's good. There's a patron question that ties into this. We'll do our best with this one. Elmo says, "Oh my God, my short time as a Barca fan has been absolutely devastating. I first started watching them in the end of 2017, and we all know how it's been." Neymar left, Barca lost to Roma, then Liverpool, Bayern, and then Messi left, and then Bayern again. Any words to hold on to as a Barca fan? I'm losing hope here.
Oh my God.
All right. This is why I said we do our best. We're not miracle workers.
It was funny. Yeah. I mean, I never thought of it